Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. Here we are nearing the end of March. It's so hard to believe, but it is what it is, and I cannot imagine that April's right around the corner, and that means that June is not too far off for the Women in Tabletop Gaming Month. Hopefully you are following along with all of the great people and groups that are joining in for this month-long celebration of women in tabletop role-playing, and I'm just so excited to be doing this and to be doing a small part of it with everyone else that's getting involved. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that is participating and that's going to be listening in June or checking out articles or shopping at some of the participants that sell stuff. It's going to be a great time. Without further ado, I'm going to dive right into one of the podcasts that is supporting this June in Women is Tabletop Gaming Month, and that is Dungeons and Dragons. So listen to their promo, and then be sure to look out for what they will be doing in June to celebrate that month. But thank you so much for being here and listening to Tales from the Fandom.
Hey there! We're Dungeons and Dragons. Quick, what do we do here?
We're going to roll some dice,
make some terrible jokes,
toss in a wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man, and you've got a party!
It's so much pun. Sorry about that.
Yeah. We're Dungeons and Dragons, a D&D 5th edition actual play podcast where we are building a world through the collaborative storytelling that is Dungeons and Dragons.
we like to have fun,
Laughs.
thrills, and adventure.
Join us by subscribing to Dungeons and Dragons through iTunes or wherever you download podcasts.
Find us at dumbdragons.com.
And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today I am joined by Tamara. You might know her online as AfroQween Cosplay, and she is based out of Texas, where I have had many a different guest from Texas join me, and I'm glad to once again have another guest from Texas. Welcome to the podcast, Tamara.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here.
I am so glad to have you. You are my first recording in the new year. I am thrilled to have you, and it's just so exciting.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I've been counting down the days and the hours, so I'm ready.
Yeah, you're ready. It's a new year.
Yeah, 2018 is where it's at for me. I have all the things, so I'm ready.
You're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have a lot of different fandoms, and I think we talked about it before we started recording that Facebook had recommended you to me, and I went back for a moment and I looked at why maybe we got recommended, or you got recommended to me, and we have several people in common that overlap, and I was like, okay, that's probably it.
Oh, Facebook, you good old stalker book.
That's right.
Oh.
Now, as everyone knows, I send out a questionnaire and people send back all their different fandoms. And for you, you've got several, but we talked about it and we're going to stick with two main ones today. And one is a new fandom that you got into just recently, and that's Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, I love it so much. It is like life. I play as often as I can. So, yeah.
Now, how recent did you get into that?
Actually, I think we've been playing for about a year now.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been playing for a year, but I've been, staring at the player's handbook and at my starter kit for a year prior to that, basically begging my friends to join me. And then suddenly, just one of my friends actually came over for a Christmas party and saw it and convinced everybody to start a campaign. So.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I was so happy. It's finally.
Now, what made you pick up the starter kit way back, even a year before that? Was it just something you did on a whim, or that you wanted to play and couldn't find people, or just read about it?
Well, I wanted to play, and I knew several people who did play in campaigns. I had gone to PAX South and thus seen, people playing right then and there. But really what got my starter kit was a Secret Santa. I put it on my list and I got it for Christmas, like a couple of years before then, And so that kind of really kicked it off, even more so. So
And now you're a year into playing D&D. How is it?
it's everything. We play almost every week, Saturdays and Sundays, sometimes. And by far my favorite character, his name is Declan. I am playing a male role like for the first time, and he's a terrible bard. Basically, all of his songs are garbage, but I managed to still woo and fancy everyone, so it's the best. I play a xylophone too, which is very uncommon. But yeah, it's like I have the xylophone app on my phone, so I can play the songs whenever it's time to go. So
Oh, okay.
It's been really interesting. No one ever knows what I'm gonna come up with, so it's by far my favorite.
Now, I just gotta ask, do you pre-make your songs before you get to the table?
Yes, I have a book of I have a journal where I keep all my encounters or whatnot in. Well, at the back there's like a tab, and I'm like, okay, well, what if I have to fight a troll, or what if we have to fight rats, or is there something I can do to try to entertain people, especially if I'm trying to distract them while my party's trying to sneak into, like, I don't know, we keep getting stuck in sewers lately. So if I'm trying to distract an audience, I have a song for that as well, and it's usually just about like I find like somebody who I think is the prettiest in the crowd, or sometimes the not, the ugliest, and I'm like, yes, you, my love, you are everything that the world should be about. And so I just serenade them and I try to distract everyone. So I have a few songs that I have assigned to Declan. So
Oh, that's awesome. What would we do without technology like that?
I don't know. I think life would be a lot duller, personally. Like, if I couldn't just play a xylophone like at the drop of a hat, like where would I be?
Exactly.
So, it makes it really hard to build like an accurate figure though, because not a lot of people have a xylophone. So, I may have to petition a couple of people to create a xylophone attachment for him.
There you go. That is definitely something that I don't think I have ever heard of.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Now, I will say I am jealous because you get to play 2 days a week, and I crave a gaming group. I crave a going to the table and rolling some dice, and it's just not in the cards for me.
Oh man, I think we just got lucky. Like one of the photographers that I shoot with all the time, he's been playing for like ever. Like he's got like a garage full of like sets, and monsters. So he kind of reached out and said, "Hey, I know you guys are playing. Do you want to join us?" I was like, "Yes." So that's my main biggest game, that we play. That's a once a month game because it is huge,
Right.
But then we play every Sunday at my house. One of our roommates, he GMs for us, so it just kind of worked out that like we had friends who had played and friends that had never played but have been like, listening to podcasts about D&D and reading all the books for like years. She was like, "I'm ready. My character is in the shopping cart. Let me know when." So it was really fun because like it was like no time at all. She just put buy and she was ready to go. So we just really got lucky with finding a really nice group of friends to play with.
Yeah. A lot of the time it seems that there's people that want to play, but no one wants to step up and, be the DM, the dungeon master. And then sometimes, like, I talked to a few other people where they're like, oh, everyone wants to play. And even if they didn't have any experience, they're like, okay, fine, I'll run the game.
Exactly. Like my roommate, he basically played a few games and then he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna DM." And so we were all like, "Really? Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm ready." And he already started writing on, at that moment he started writing out what was gonna happen. He was figuring out his storyline, building his world. So thankfully, we know creative people like that were ready to step in, to DM.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a few friends who just run the one-shot campaigns, so we just have one quick encounter because it's not like their favorite thing to do,
Yeah.
Like long campaigns are hard, to try to figure out.
They are indeed.
Especially with our crew because we are unpredictable. It's like there's two tieflings, and they're just the worst. All they want to do is set things ablaze, and but they're entertaining at the same time. We have a half orc who, he's the kindest guy. It makes no sense. He's the sweetest half orc in the world, but like he gets us into the most trouble because he doesn't want to fight anyone. I'm like, just like destroy. And then we have a human cleric, and she's pretty cool. She's a lot more violent than everybody expected. Um, and then she's very new to the game. She's the one who basically obsessively listened to podcasts and had her figure in the shopping cart. And I play half elf bard. Yeah. So it's a great crew.
Yeah, it sounds like a good blend of characters.
Yeah, yes. If the tieflings could only not be loud, if they could just not clamor about, that would be the best. Yeah, it's been cool.
As far as Dungeons and Dragons go, is there a favorite like race or class that you prefer over all others?
I started off playing as a cleric just because I'm always a healer. Like, doesn't matter what we're playing, I always go for the healer round. But to do like the cleric, you really got to be on top of your spell list. You got to know what you can use and what you can't. So I'm really falling in love with the bard because I can do healing, but I have like bardic inspiration, and I can help my friends out a lot more that way. I can actually make them stronger. So otherwise, I kind of like the dang it, what are those guys called? It's so simple. They change into animals.
Oh, druids.
Druids, yes. I don't like personally playing a druid, but I like playing with druids. I like playing in campaigns with druids because they're just, you never know, like, what this bear is going to be able to do. And I thought it was funny when we played in a campaign. Oh my gosh, and she was a dwarf druid, and I was like, so when you turn into a bear, you're going to be a cub, right? You're going to be as small as a baby bear. I think people forget that you maintain the size that you are, So we had like this little tiny bear, like just freaking doing damage, mauling the place apart. And I was thinking how adorable it must have looked. Just a little baby bear running at you. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
Yeah, I think, let's see here. I started back and I played like a rogue fighter cross class initially, and then I played like a cleric, and I've been all over the place. The one class I tend to stay away from is either sorcerer or wizard, just because I don't like really dealing with the magical spell list and figuring out how many spell slots I have, and that's just not me.
Yeah, it gets a little bit exhausting. I'm like, okay, well, like, can I just not have to add anything else? Because I'm really happy with what I have, and then you got to figure out, like, feats at some point, and if you're going to take your feats or if you're just going to take the points and what that does to the spells that you do have. So,
right.
I know we have several people that love playing sorcerers. I wish I would have gone rogue for my bard personally, because I just think it would have been, it could make for some really interesting interactions,
Mm-hmm.
So I may multi-class later on, but I don't know. I like rogues. They seem to be the most beneficial in a group, though. So
yeah, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what about favorite race? Do you have a favorite race, or have you just tended to stick to one or two in particular?
I haven't explored the races as much, especially with the new book that's out. So, we're getting that in the mail, like, I don't know, tomorrow. And I feel like my mind's just going to explode with all the races that's in that book. Because we were just looking at some of the feats in the book, and I was like, what? What? How? So I'm not too sure, I am still new to the game, but I think I really like one of our friends plays this creature. It's like she looks normal, but then she like explodes into some like fairy like thing.
Oh, I do not know.
I don't know either, but she's amazing and magical, and her character looks beautiful. Um, some sort of changeling like thing. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still learning everything, and it's been exciting to learn it all. But I think at PAX this year, I really want to open my mind to all of the races that are out there within the game. There's just so many now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've been listening to a bunch of different podcasts recently, and there's some races that, I've heard of before from like other editions, but never as playable characters. But then now they've like, converted them so that people can play them. I'm like, oh, those sound cool, and that sounds cool, and that sounds neat, and
Exactly. But then you're like, okay, well, what all does that entail? Like, now what do I have to adjust? Like, what's new though? Then, like, am I gonna have to have something very similar to a spell list? Or
right.
so that's the things that I'm thinking about as well.
What's been your favorite like moment at the table for you? Like, is there something that sticks out in your head that you're like, damn, that's why I love playing D&D?
Yes. We have some of the best role players in the world. So this encounter involved him grappling a giant. But before he grappled the giant, he fell into a puddle of oil. So he is very lubed up and trying to grapple a giant. So we're like throwing mushrooms at this giant to see what mushroom will do what to it. Instead of making the giant weaker, we're making him bigger and stronger. Now he's like hot. So the freaking it's a wood elf is grappling a giant. So let's just get that image in our head. And he's lubed up in oil that is now a little bit sizzling, and he is trying to take down a giant. And he just kept rolling like high every single time, like knocking down this giant. And it was just impressive. Every single time we thought he was going to slip and like fly across the city, he was like just holding on for dear life. And the idea that he was lubed up because it was one of our party members' faults just made it better. It was just nobody expected it to happen like that. So it was a really fun encounter. I got wooed by a freaking by a druid, and I was like, oh, she's so beautiful, I love her. And then she gets shot with an arrow. I'm like, why would you shoot her? And then she turns on us. She turns on us, and we all we set the fire, we set the forest ablaze, and we start getting attacked by druids every which way, and it was just great. It was really fun. That was fun.
Oh my goodness.
That was a fun day. So nothing like being lubed up and fighting a giant, to get your Saturday off to a nice start. So
there you go.
That was one of my favorite encounters. It was just funny the way it all happened. So,
right.
Good times. He's always passing out like offering like sexual favors to like our enemies. He's like, it's okay. How about we just do this instead? They're like, wait, what? No. But it's a great distraction, so for just a moment, so we can get in there and attack them. So,
oh my goodness,
yeah, that's what I have to deal with every Saturday. Every Saturday.
If people are listening, I mean, you're a relatively new player to D&D, so if people are listening that are on the fence about playing Dungeons and Dragons or giving it a chance, what would you say to them?
Just do it. Find a group of people who you're comfortable with and that are going to be patient enough as you learn to play, because there's lots of rules. Find a group that you're comfortable playing with and just play. Like play 1 or 2 campaigns and then you'll really see how you like it. It's super fun, and it allows you to be creative and just use your imagination that we all have, So it's a really great escape, like even for like if you play like us crazy people 8 hours, or if you play like an hour and a half, it's just a really fun escape, and it's a great time with your friends. So just do it.
Absolutely. Just do it. Get out there and do it. I'm
doing the Shia LaBeouf thing, hand and just do it. Hand and fist. Yeah, so just do it.
Shia LaBeouf reference. I think you're the first person to reference him on this podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. What's up, 2018? Oh
Now,
goodness.
moving away from D&D is a thing that you told me now before we started recording. I said, what do you want to talk about? And you're like, well, I love Marvel Comics, and I got 20 long boxes.
I do. I'm looking at them right now.
Holy cow, that is a lot of comics.
Yes, we have plans to open up a really cool shop sometime next year. So we are collecting as many as we can. I have a bunch, and my business partner has a bunch too. So we are excited.
Ooh, I'm excited now for you.
Yes.
Well, I guess that's a good reason to have 20 long boxes worth of comics.
Yeah, I only have 20. She's got like maybe twice as much, but we've just been busy buying and collecting, so it's been awesome.
You said you're a Marvel person as far as comics go.
I am.
How long have you been into Marvel Comics?
My dad started reading. I mean, my dad grew up in Marvel Comics, so I kind of grew up on Marvel Comics. Like my first comics were the Hulk, like reading old school Hulk comics, and I ended up finding the collection last year, and I spent like $250 on it, on like 20 comics, but like it was like the first issue of his like appearances, So like it was a great gift because my dad was at that convention with me, and he'd never gone to a convention. So it was like his first comic book convention, and I found like one of the first issues he'd ever read. So it was a cool thing.
Well, that's a cool moment to share with your dad.
Yeah, it was really cool. He was like way nerding out. I did not realize that I came from such a nerdy family, but it was really great. Especially because I was in cosplay, and he'd never hung out with me in cosplay. So that was really cool. He was like, all right, I see why you like it. I got it now.
There you go.
Yeah, but yeah.
Now, Marvel has a bunch of different comics, a bunch of different characters. What are some of the mainstays, the ones that you are like ride and die for as far as comics?
I am ride and die for the Vision. If I know, you've seen him in the movies, but his newest storyline was beautiful. It was tragic and perfect. It was everything that Vision needed to be. Because Vision has plenty of comics before, like back in like the 90s and the 80s, but like the run that they put out last year was just spectacular. So I'm ride and die for Vision. I am ride and die for X-Men. I am ride and die for Squirrel Girl.
Hey, yes.
You can fight me. I don't care. I love Squirrel Girl. She's my girl. I just love her personality. She's so spunky. Let's see. I'm like looking at I just went to my comic book shop and did a pull. So, yeah. I'm trying to catch up my roommates on Old Man Logan. They're like not about it. They didn't realize what was going on in their lives until they read it.
Right.
I started off reading writer Ta-Nehisi Coates, and then when I found out that he wrote the Black Panther series, the newest one, I hopped on board. The language is like everything about it is so good. The stories are amazing, and the fact that he stayed on past the 20 issues that he originally signed on for, I'm okay with. Like, I will give you all my money.
Oh, absolutely! It's been like one of the best Marvel comics of like the past year or so.
Yeah, like even the what is it, Tales of Wakanda? Even those ones are amazing. So I'm just really surprised that it's doing so well, and of course I'm happy that it is, but I wasn't expecting it. I'll also fight people over Moon Girl. She's totally slept on, I think. But like Lunella is everything. She's like the smartest. She's newly, titled the smartest person in the world. She beat everybody out in the IQ test, and I just love her. She's so emotional and unpredictable. So she's basically a young me.
She's the one with Devil Dinosaur, right?
Yep.
That's what I thought, because I remembered the comic is like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur that came out like a year and a half. I can't remember.
It's like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I really like her.
Yeah. She's really, her storyline is getting really, really interesting. It gets more and more complex every year, or with every issue or storyline that they're going on. Because, like, Devil Dinosaur and her kind of split. Like, they're doing their own things right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a little bit stressful to see where that's going to go and how they're going to get back together. Because I miss them.
And I love that you referenced Squirrel Girl, because she is one of those characters that started off as, you know, just a joke of a character, and now she's like been just this incredible character, especially recently, where she's appearing in all the different comics, and she had her own comic, and now she's got the Squirrel Girl and the New Warriors cartoon that's supposed to be coming out on like Marvel's Netflix kind of thing that's going to be happening soon.
And excuse me, and I am going to be there for it. Like, I will subscribe. They will take my money, and I will watch, and I won't miss an episode. I know that when I went to C2E2, I got to meet the author of Squirrel Girl, and I just didn't know what to do with my life. I was just kind of like, oh my gosh. But it was a really cool experience and super cool people. So, yeah, and I actually got introduced to Squirrel Girl through one of my local friends here, one of the local musicians. He had a song, a Marvel song, and it was like singing about Squirrel Girl. And I was like, who is this? And I was like, let me check it out. And then I freaking read a few issues, and then after that I was like, okay, let me just put that on my pull box list. And yeah, so I really like it. I really think she's important to the comic book world because she kind of paved the way for, you know, a lot of new female heroes, you know, like freaking Kala, you know, freaking, I don't know, like Moon Girl, even Moon Girl alone. Like if Squirrel Girl hadn't paved the way, then Miss Marvel couldn't have come along, you know, like the new Miss Marvel. And so I just really commend the writers of Squirrel Girl for setting the tone for us.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Stephen Will. So.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what's even great is that getting to see people cosplay as Squirrel Girl, like that's amazing.
You have no idea. Like I nearly shed tears every time I see her. It's just so cute. First of all, it's a squirrel. So they already get brownie points from me there. But it's always amazing to see them cosplayed, and I love seeing the art. You don't see a lot of Squirrel Girl art. But I got one that's like, instead of mother of dragons, she's mother of squirrels. And like all the little squirrels around her are dressed up like the different dragons from freaking Game of Thrones, and it's just perfect. It is
awesome.
Great artwork. So, yeah.
That's cool. Now, and you said you like the X-Men.
I do.
Now, one of the questions I love to ask people that, you know, that like the X-Men or have interest in the X-Men is, if you could pick like 5 people to make your own X-Men team, who would you pick?
Okay, I would pick nobody understands, but I would pick Beak for one. He probably wouldn't be my number one, but he's up there. So Beak would be up there, Storm would be up there, Phoenix would be up there. I want to say Cyclops, but he's a little too much emotional for me. Let's see. What was that? 3. Let's choose. Okay, we got to put Wolverine up there, and I'll put. Oh man, number 5's a tough one for me. I kind of want an Omega. I guess we'll just put Mystique up there just because I like the idea that she could pretend to be anyone for me. Yeah. Oh, I like Pixie too. I don't know. It's really hard. That's really rude. That's not a fair challenge because I want them all.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah, there are. Oh, man, and then you have Shadow Cat. Okay, yeah. That's tough. What about you? Who would you pick?
Oh man, well my number one X-Men is Kitty Pryde. I love her.
Yeah.
I've loved her for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. I have a friend who swears by her. Like if she could be Kitty Pryde every day, she would be. Like
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see here. If I had to pick 5, it'd definitely be Kitty Pryde, Blink,
Oh,
to handle
shoot.
teleporting.
Dang it. Can I have Bishop?
Let's see.
Oh, gosh. Your list is so good already.
Let's see here. Kitty Pride, Blink. Dust. I'd love to have Dust.
Shoot, I'm dropping the ball.
It's there's like a million until they reduced however many mutants. See that's my thing. Okay, so they did like the no more mutants. You got like 200 something mutants left, and then they've rebooted kinda like the universe, and now I'm like, well, how many mutants are there? Are there still just like the 200? Are there more? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think they did that because they're trying to start a whole new generation for us. You know what I mean? I feel like they're trying to give this generation a whole new group of X-Men to fall in love with. It's like if we get rid of the oldies, then we can introduce these new mutants. So try to keep the fandom
even
alive.
like when they even like when they brought the original X-Men into the future, and it's like, oh well, now they're running around too. Like there's young Cyclops and young Beast and young Iceman and
right. I recently was telling my roommate like how OP Iceman was. He's like, "What?" I was like, "Listen, you have no idea." He's like, "But he's just ice." I was like, "Yes, there's water everywhere." He just did not understand how he could be so OP. I was like, "Yeah, he's definitely up there." So isn't he like considered like a high tier mutant?
Yeah, Iceman. Yeah,
isn't he like an Omega?
There's people on Twitter that I follow that are like super, Marvel people, and they're always like doing comments about stuff. And I thought that they had talked about Iceman being Omega level.
I thought he was. I thought he was.
I think he is.
I'm gonna say yes. Let's just say yes.
Let's just say yes.
It feels good to say yes.
The last discussion that I saw that they're having was about Storm being an Omega level, but it wasn't verified. And it's like Storm absolutely has to be an Omega level due to everything that she can do with weather. Like everything.
It only makes sense. But then I remember somebody saying like, yeah, but like, does she influence does the weather come from her, or does she just manipulate the weather? Do you know what I mean? And so they were saying that like if the powers don't come from the effects don't come from her directly, like out of her body, then does that really count? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it counts.
Right? We had a really heated discussion. It was like ruining dinner for me, but we were really, really intense about it. So, yeah.
What are... I gotta ask, because I wouldn't say I was growing up in, but I was around when the new X-Men was coming out with Beak as a member of the X-Men. Like, what is it about Beak that?
Okay, well let's just start with the beginning when we meet him, right? So he's just some little punk little guy who gets bullied and made fun of. He can't really fly, and he's just everything about him is awkward. You know what I mean? And I just love that he ended up rising up at the end and being like taking control of things and surpassing what everybody thought that he could ever do. I kind of really enjoy the underdogs. So for me, Beak was like the ultimate underdog who did more than anybody ever expected him to do. So, and I really have to thank again the writer of the Marvel music for introducing me to him, because he's like, read these and then talk to me in a week. And so I was like, and every time I saw something happening with Beak, I was like, oh no, he goes, just shut up and keep reading. I was like, oh my gosh. So I just really fell in love with him at that point. And if anybody ever asks me which X-Men is probably on my top list, it's always going to be him, just because his heart is so great.
Now, is Beak still around in like the current continuity, or has he not shown up yet?
I haven't seen him show up again, but I am a fan of sleeping, so I fall behind. So I don't think he shows up again after New X-Men. Bar now, right?
The last time I remember him was that they did a crossover with the Exiles comic book, and they were like, "Oh, you've become unstuck in time. You have to join our team." And he was part of that group for a little bit.
Yep. Oh, man, he's just so cute. He's
And I
just
know
the
he married
worst.
Angel.
Yep, because they have all those kids.
Yep.
Like 1,000 little baby hybrid.
Angel Beaks.
Yeah. Oh, Angel Beaks. Good one. That's a good name. I just really think that he has the potential to be really awesome. Maybe that's just me and wishing that he was more recognized within the world because he played a big role in freaking all new X-Men, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's probably one of my favorite runs. So maybe that's why I say that. So, and then I was like teased. Remember when they like came out when that freaking X-Men movie Origins movie? You know, we won't talk about it too much, but like fan art came out like of Beak, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm ready. And then he wasn't in it at all, and I was like, well, you know what? Fine. But every time I see him, I get really hopeful that he's gonna come back, because I just love his little tortured heart.
Poor Beak.
I know, poor guy. Nobody cares about him but me and probably 4 other people. But me and us 4 people are gonna have coffee together and have a great time.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, what are some other comics like currently that are high on your list that you're like, oh, if you're not like, I know we talked about Black Panther and Moon Girl, but is there something where you're like, people need to be reading this comic?
I really like Motor Crush. Let me grab it. Sorry. It's like I was actually given it as a gift, and I didn't think I was going to be a big fan of it. But basically, here it is. It is WGP. It's an Image comic.
Okay.
It's basically about these badass motorcyclists that kind of juice up their bikes, and their bikes are alive, and they have these brains, and they can get addicted to all these different drugs. But the artwork is like everything. It is beautifully written. The dialogue is really, really well done as well, and it moves so quickly. So Motor Crush is definitely on my list, but it just came out last year, so it's a newer run of comics that people may not know about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth the read. It's definitely worth your time. Another one that I would recommend is what's this thing called? Oh, dang it! It's like a small company they write. And we met them at a Comic Palooza up here in Houston, and it's called America or something. I don't know. I'll have to think of that one, and I'll probably send you an update. But I don't know. Right now, that's really what I'm reading the most of. Obviously, Saga is a great graphic novel to get into as well.
Definitely.
I fell into that one by accident. You know, like just hanging out like a creeper at my comic book shop, and I was like, "What is this?" It's got some interesting scenes, you know, and I was like not ready for computer fornication.
Right.
So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in a public space, like trying not to blush over what's happening on my book, you know. I was like, this is for home. This is an at-home book. So those are really where my heart lies right now. There's just so many that I'm trying not to buy at the comic book shop because right now my pull box is just ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense how much we have going on. We got the Secret Warriors recently. We started reading, which is interesting. I don't know if you've been reading Secret Warriors.
No, the only one that I've been honestly like I try to stay away from comics because you know $4 a comic book adds up. And I'll generally like pick up the trade paperbacks, but the one that has just come out recently, which harkens back to one of my favorite runs of comics, is the new Runaways comic. Like that's an insta buy.
Yes.
I love my Runaways.
You see, like somebody had talked to me about the Runaways previously, And I was like, I don't know, man. It looks a little bit weird. But then I remember seeing it like in a comic book shop and being like, okay, maybe I'll just pick this up and take it home. So Runaways is has been everything I wanted it to be. And being able to talk with a lot of friends now about the Runaways has also been entertaining. But I'm still far behind and I'm trying to catch up. And we have too many things that we're getting in our pull box, like realistically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to keep up because I'm still a college student. So I have books to read for school.
Yep.
I can't hide my comic books behind my textbooks anymore. It's frowned upon, apparently. So I just really have to figure out a balance between my obsessions, I guess. You know?
Yeah, it is tough between like 8-hour D&D sessions, school, everything else that you're doing. Fitting in comic book time is tough.
Yeah, I was for one point, like whenever I wasn't in combat, I would be like trying to look at what's happening in an issue, you know, in a comic book, and they'd be like, Tamara, you can't, like, I need you here. It's like, yeah, but like, you know, like things are exploding over here. Like, yeah, but things are exploding over here too. So, you know, I really had to figure out that a happy medium. So it's tough.
It is tough. It's the life of a person that's into as many things as we are, like all sorts of just good stuff.
Yeah, just way too much though, you know. Way too much. I stretch myself thin, you know.
Right.
Definitely.
And now we'll jump over to like the third part of stretching yourself thin, because you are a cosplayer.
I am. It is life. It is life.
Now, as with every cosplayer that I ask, how did you get into cosplay?
Okay, it's really random. But in school, you know, in high school, way back in the day, we went on a trip to a Renaissance festival. And I was there, I was like, wow, man, these outfits are amazing. I wonder like how much time they take, if these are difficult to make. And then I basically bought a pattern when I got home. I bought a sewing pattern. I asked anybody if they knew what it was, and they didn't. So I held on to the pattern for like 2 years, and then I got a job where a veterinarian knew how to sew.
Okay.
And she was like, hey, like, I know you have this pattern. Like, do you know how to sew? I was like, no, I don't. I really want to make this cosplay. She's like, what the heck's a cosplay? And I showed her what it was. And she's like, okay, I'll help you. And that was 10 years ago. And I've been sewing cosplays for 10 years now.
What was your first costume?
It was Chrome Ducro from Hitman Reborn. So it's like really obscure, I guess. Not really. Plus, I'm really bad at pronunciations. But yeah, it was Chrome from Hitman Reborn. And I made the jacket way too small, so like I couldn't like bend my arms, because I'd never like actually sewn a jacket. So I was like in the best pose all day. But that was my first cosplay. And then from there, I made Mira Nigas from Soul Eater, which is just a bunch of bandages, and I made my first pair of camo pants. But that was really cool because I'd never made pants before. And then it just kind of exploded. I went from little things like pants and jackets to, you know, making bodysuits, making armor, body paint, styling wigs. So it was kind of like I hit the ground running, because I think I have a unhealthy obsession, you know, with things like that. Like I just completely jump in. So yeah.
With cosplay, as far as like the characters that you do, is it characters that you're drawn to, the outfits, a mixture of both? Like, how do you choose who you're going to cosplay as?
I stare at things a lot. So I think it's a mixture of the character and the outfit. For one, I'm really short, so I always have to consider that whenever I'm thinking of like a character or a cosplay. Because if I want to dress up as somebody who, you know, is like 5'11", and so the outfit fits them appropriately, and I'm like 5 feet even, I'm going to look like a toddler wearing my mom's clothes. No matter how well it's fitted, you know, I'm going to look really, really, really short, a lot shorter than I am. So I always have to consider, like, like their body type and my body type relatively. I don't let that slow me down too much. Because if you have the confidence, you can wear any cosplay. Really. But I always try to look at the outfit and how complex it is, and then I think of my time also, because it's a lot of time that I have to dedicate to these things. So, I mean, I really just have to weigh that out, because I know one outfit took me an entire year to make because of the details in it.
Oh, really? Which one was that?
It's a princess dress. It's Princess Tiana, but it's got over 2,000 tiny Swarovski crystals on it. They're hand glued, and it's got hand painted leaves, so it looks like actual leaves. Mm-hmm. And it's got 20 layers of tulle, and everything's handmade and hand dyed, and it's silk. And it just took me a year because I was so picky on the fabric and how it laid. And I'll probably never wear it again, but but yeah, that one was really tough. But by far, I think one of my most stunning ones in person is Vivian from Dragon Age Inquisition.
Okay.
I had to hand make a stamp for the pattern of the jacket because BioWare hates cosplayers. No, I'm just kidding. But their designers, are impossible. They come up with these amazing artwork and these characters, and then you go to the fabric store and it doesn't exist in real life.
Right.
So that just really made life tough. But it was worth it, and it was beautiful, and people loved it. So sometimes the hard work really does pay off.
Do you have any favorites that you've done that you are most recognized for, or ones where you're after you get them done, you're like, damn, I can't believe I got that one done?
I don't know. I thought I've done a lot of Twi'leks from Star Wars. So I think a lot of people recognize me as a Twi'lek, which is really interesting, because then when I'm not in body paint, they're like, you look familiar, but so that one's always really entertaining to meet people. They're like, are you AfroQween? I didn't know. I can't tell. Yeah, this is me. This is what I look like in real life, I guess. But I think this in 2017, I think my most recognizable cosplays are going to be Cammy from Street Fighter, and I did a lion cosplay from Steven Universe. So I think those are my two most recognizable for 2017, probably flowing into 2018, but I'm not sure. I never know what's going to be a hit, honestly.
Right.
Some things will be so simple and people will love it, or I'll make the most complex, most screen accurate replica of something, and people are like, oh, interesting, because they don't know who you are,
Right.
But that's like me. I always do that, and I'm always like, oh, a little sad, but it's so fun to cosplay as your favorite characters regardless. So yeah.
Now I'm on your Instagram right now, and there's one that you say that's happening next.
Oh yeah.
And I'm really excited for it, because it's been the show that has been just I've been so incredibly pleased with it, and you have Allura from Voltron as one of your next ones.
Yep, hold on to your butt because it's happening. I've been working on it. I kind of in secret, I guess. I posted that photo, the guess what's next photo. Excuse me. I haven't posted any updates on it, so that's been pretty exciting. I think that's more exciting to me sometimes. If I could give you a teaser, and then my next update is the robe, her little jacket. Mm-hmm. But I'm planning to have that ready for the conventions happening here in Houston in March. So I'm kind of taking my time with it, because I'm going to be really picky in particular with it. So, but I'm really excited about it. It's so pretty, and the fabrics that I was able to find match it so well. So I'm really, really excited about her.
Yeah, I love her character design, and of course, everything that her character has done in the show that is just so wonderful.
Yeah, she's I think I'm trying to decide if I like this version of her or if I like the old school version. But I think she's paved the way for some pretty amazing things to happen in the future. So I don't know. She's been pretty exciting to watch. Oops.
Oh yeah. Now, as a cosplayer, what's the hardest thing for you as a cosplayer? Like, is it the sewing or the time management or just finding the material?
Time management. Mostly because I like to sleep, like I said earlier. And I also find myself being a big procrastinator. But I think that just happens in the cosplay community. Like, I don't know how many times I see all my friends are like, oh my gosh, the con is in 2 days. What am I doing with my life? Let's go out, you know?
Right.
So I think time management is my biggest problem, especially because, basically I make it so that I sew until I feel like I'm stressed, and then I have to stop and like come back to it later.
Mhm.
So like we're working on a big Black Panther group, and I'm hand beating, and it's exhausting. So like I literally have to force myself to sit there and do it because I can't do hand beating in a day. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Mhm,
So
definitely.
time management is definitely my biggest beast. I usually don't have a hard time finding materials because Houston has really great fabric districts around here, and the community itself is always really helpful. So materials is not usually my biggest problem. Thankfully, I know how to, create stamps and patterns, so that's not that hard also. But I think time is my biggest enemy.
Yeah, that seems what it's like for a lot of cosplayers sometimes, especially I talk to cosplayers. I follow them on their like Facebook pages and Instagram. It's like, oh gosh, the con crunch, like staying up until like 2 o'clock in the morning working on stuff. I could never do that.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. And then I got to get up, like especially if it's like a shoot, like that's even worse because like I'll procrastinate and then it'll be the night before, and I have to wake up at like early in the morning to go to get my makeup done for the photo shoot. And I'm like, why? I look like death. Please help me not look like death. But I do struggle with that. Like I remember for Vivian of Dragon Age, I actually finished the headdress the morning, like an hour before we left the house to the convention. So, yeah, that happened. And then it got like shared. I think some magazines took my photo, some video game websites and stuff like took my photos. So, I mean, it was well received, but I mean, I was sleepy. But
Well, that's good. When they
yeah.
do that, do they ask like your permission? Do they contact you? Like, how does that work?
Usually like, hey, we're with such and such. Is it okay if we take your photo and put it online? And they're like, yeah, that's no problem. Here's my business card. And so my business card will have all my contact information if if they have any other questions.
Mm-hmm.
So they can also link it like, they can use the information on my business card on the websites. But sometimes, some companies will just take your photo and then you'll be like, oh, I guess I'm being featured. So half the time when people get featured on like, on Instagram or on like some online magazines, we don't
Mm-hmm.
even know it until somebody tells us.
Wow.
Yeah, like I had no idea I'd been featured in Ebony Online until somebody tagged me. So things like that happen all the time. Like I find my picture on websites all the time. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. I'm so glad the photographer's okay with this. Because usually that's the biggest problem. I get permissions,
Right.
to publish these things. So usually that's the biggest thing. Like, oh, well, thanks for the share, you guys. Thanks for the shout out. This is awesome. I had no idea. So
Right. I know that I've sent messages a few times where I'm like, "Oh, I saw you on Kotaku and here's the link to it." And they're like, "Oh my gosh," because I guess they're pulling from like the photographer, but then like the cosplayers aren't linked on it. It's like, "Oh, okay."
yep, no clue. I know one time it was like, I guess a bunch of people who are kind of up there on YouTube and Instagram submitted a bunch of cosplayers that they thought were cool, and that's
Mhm.
how they got into the article. But it was like no work of the photographer and the model themselves or the
Oh,
cosplayer
okay.
themselves. So it's like a lot of time it's outside forces that like, oh my gosh, somebody recognized them, and then they share it from there. So
Interesting.
I agree.
I've talked to a lot of Texas cosplayers, and you are the newest one, and I just have to say, like, from my experiences talking with people from Texas, is that it seems like the Texas cosplay community is one of the most supportive, like, friendliest bunch of people out there.
I would definitely agree. I went to my first out-of-state convention last year, and it's not that the environment wasn't friendly. It wasn't as it was just wasn't as like open. Do you know what I mean? Like the communities were like so tight knit. It was like so hard just to get in for like a photo. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like I didn't. I don't think I looked terrible. Do you know? But it was just like, no, like we're just gonna do our own thing. We're like, okay, I've never been here. I don't know anybody. Like,
Right.
you know. So I'm not trying to be too much of a creeper. I just want to hang out with someone else. You know. But I think I think Texas cosplays can be so friendly. Like you can go onto the Facebook post, be like, hey, I'm here alone. Will somebody hang out with me? And they will find you and they will hang out with you all day. You know what I mean? So I just really like the community, and I think even moving to Houston made a big difference between San Antonio and Houston. You know, both have amazing communities. One community is just a little bit larger than the other, so
Right.
a little more developed, I guess. You know, I think population has a lot to do with it. So the whole experience has been amazing and beautiful. It's been really welcoming.
That's awesome. Now, besides Allura, do you have anybody else on your list for this year that you want to get done?
Yes, like I was saying, I have oh goodness, I have the Black Panther group that I'm working on, which is just exhausting. I'm also going to be working on, I have a list, because I basically ask for recommendations all the time,
Right.
as what should I do, because I get a little bit lost, you know, as to what I should cosplay next. But I know I'm working on a Storm cosplay. I did Asgardian Storm last year, but I would like to do a more recognizable Storm, maybe. Maybe. We'll see. Again, I like obscure characters and obscure versions of characters, so
Right.
that makes my life a little bit difficult in that sense. I just always forget that I have 1,000 things that I really, really, really want to do. I don't know. I want to redo some Star Wars characters that I've done previously. I would really like to tackle one of Queen Amidala's dresses, but I know that's going to be all of my life that it's going to
Right.
take for me to do. I think I'm okay with that, but I just don't know how the rest of the world feels about that, you know? But I don't know. It's so hard. It's so hard for me to figure out what to cosplay as. And then at the end of the year, I find out that I did 17 costumes, you know? Like, what? How did this
Right.
happen? So they just kind of come to me, and I'm really impulsive. So I'm like, oh, yep, I'm going to make this. So, yeah, I think that's a problem of mine. Impulse.
but it's a good problem to have. I
think
guess.
so.
I hope
'Cause,
so.
I mean, even when I did Cammy, I was like, I think I'm going to do Cammy. And then I made a bodysuit, and the rest was history.
For those who have listened and we're here at the end, where can people go and find you out on the great wide internet?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook at AfroQueen 01. You can find me on Twitter as AfroQueen Cosplay, and Instagram is AfroQueen Cosplay as well. I have a Patreon. You can check that out. It's also AfroQueen. I try to keep it really basic for you guys. And Tumblr is TPain15. That's where I'm switching it up on you. So you can find me on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So.
And I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes and on our Facebook page and website. And Tamara, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to talk with me today.
Thank you so much for taking the time. It's been amazing. It's been a great experience.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.